Welcome to the future.
A very good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending on where and when you're watching us from. My name is Mutadhi wa Shirawanyaga. Muchiro habari ya karigithe na ngwihoka kuma ng'ongo ciothe iria ciumaga huho. Muri thayo, thayo, thayo. Today is a beautiful day. It's the 10th day of the month of September. The year is 2023. I hear some other people normally like to say that it's the year of our Lord, 2023, and it is indeed the year 2020. And today we have a wonderful conversation here at State of the Continent. You're going to talk about Africa Climate Summit that was this past week on Monday. The Africa Climate Summit, the inaugural actually Africa Climate Summit was held here in Nairobi, and oh my, it was a good conversation, and that's what we are here to talk about. We want to dissect it, to understand the nitty-gritty of it, and just have a good conversation about it and understand what was happening. As you can see today, I'm having something on my neck. Before we went live, Madubi was commenting about it. This was done by a lady known as Valentine Joroge, otherwise known as Strings Attached in Instagram, so you can go and check her out. But before we get into the conversation tonight, I'd like my panelists, leo hakuna gender balance, mtatuia radhi. But next time we're going to try it. So I'm going to start with Mosese. Please introduce yourself, tell us what you do and anything you'd like to share with us tonight.
Yeah, hello guys, good evening. My name is Moses Maina, famously known as Mosese. I'm a lifetime member of African Leadership Forum and also a chemical analyst by profession. A youth activist, having founded a youth group called Tunza Kizazi Initiative back in my home county, that is Kirinyaga County. I'm happy to be here in this panel as we discuss the future, and the future is the climate. Our climate is the future. Yes.
Thank you, Mosese. Indeed, thank you once again for being here. I hope today network umeangalia mzuri. Tusiseme climate ikuwe mzuri and then we forget network. So moving on swiftly. Mabango, our in-house policy practitioner. So, public policy practitioner, please introduce yourself, tell us what you do and anything you'd like to share with us.
Hello and good evening. It's 2015 hours, Nairobi, Kenya time. I am Timothy Mabango, public policy practitioner, academician, scholar, and researcher. Happy to be part of the conversation tonight.
Thank you, Tim, once again for being here. Every time Tim is here, people always ask me, "Huyu mtu ulimtoa wapi?" So Tim will be telling them maybe where I got you from. They like the way you dispense knowledge. They say it's good content, and I hope today you'll not let us down. You'll deliver as you normally do. And today we also have a new face on the show. We have Robert Madubi. So Robert, please introduce yourself. Tell us what you do.
Hi everyone, my name is Madhi Robert, a founder of Badilitan Initiative, a local organization in Tana River County. Also, I am a youth representative in Tana River County in the planning committee on climate change. Also, I am an advocate of youth engagements and youth development.
Thank you, gentlemen, for being here tonight. We do not take it for granted. And with that, now we can start the show. But before we do that, I can see people have started commenting. A very good friend, Masharia Mwangi, saying is very ready for this. And I'll be reading other comments as they come in. So you guys can send in your comments, questions, and whatever you like to share with us here in the comment section. I'll be reading through them. Now, Mabango, let us go direct. We are talking about Africa Climate Summit. Everybody is talking about it, especially in Nairobi. And many people don't really understand. I think up to now, they are not getting what is Africa Climate Summit. Maybe you can just tell us what it is, how important it is, how big it is. It was so much like all over the news. Ilikuwa kitu kubwa sana. It was the inaugural climate summit, in Africa. So maybe you can just tell us, what does this mean for Africa, what it is, and how important it is? Timothy.
The Africa Climate Summit, having been hosted in Nairobi, Kenya, is a milestone, I would say, especially being the inaugural meeting of that kind. There are two ways to look at it. First and foremost, from the Pan-African perspective, considering Africa has for long been marginalized in discussions regarding climate. We have the historic polluters, the industrialized nations who have contributed more to this climate change, if I am objective. Yet Africa continues suffering the effects. We suffer drought, we suffer animals dying in our regions. So, in terms of the Pan African spirit, we are trying to localize the conversation so that we can be included. You heard a lot about the carbon credits and all that. Well, climate experts will speak more about that. Then there's the policy aspect now. Well, we are looking at a situation where Africa has been put aside in these major discussions. We look at fora discussing climate policies and we find Africa does not have a seat on the table, except perhaps theoretically. In terms of climate policies, we have issues like the carbon credit. You find even the financing itself, the European states and the international donors and institutions keep promising us that they will finance projects. We see, like, for example, I'll speak about Kenya now that I have a lot of details with regard to Kenya. In terms of Africa, Kenya is among the top 10 producers of renewable. We've really gone for wind energy, the geothermal. We are now shifting from the HEP, that's the hydroelectric power. So it's high time that Africa has decided to localize its policy, to discuss on how best we can use our resources to generate income commensurate to whatever we have. So it's an important conversation. And yes, we hope to learn more about it and to understand how necessary it was. Thank you.
Thank you, Mabango, for that. You know, you've broken it quite well. And Mosese, before I ask Madubi a very serious question, allow me to ask you this question. You know, we saw somebody was telling me the PR that was behind that climate summit, especially by our very own president. You saw the car he was driving. You know, he actually drove himself to the summit. There was a lot of issues, like the other day we had our deputy president Rigiji saying that Raila broke protocol. You know, there was a lot of shenanigans happening despite the conversation, despite the beautifulness of the conversation. There was still, you know, Kenya nile ile tu. Raila was breaking protocol. The president was riding a car that was raising. It's a good thing, but you know, why does he not drive that every day? And we have not seen him again in Meru with it today. So what do you read from that, Mosese? Tell us although we saw some protocols, not only some protocols being broken, but some protocols being observed. You know, there were heads of state there, and then also some protests. There are people who are saying that, hey, some other things are not going on right. So Mosese, tell us, what do you read of that situation? Mosese, please unmute yourself.
What I'm saying is that maybe I can answer the question in a context of when you're preparing for a visitor in your home, how you wash, you clean, and ensure everything is in place. So that is the same thing that was happening to William Samoei Ruto. I think that guy is an expert in matters to do with ensuring that everything is right. I mean, it's not to do with ile kujifanya, and you know, because what I can say is that was quite PR. It's real PR, because you could see even they even showcased the low emission buses, the ones that are powered, the ones that are charged. Majorly you don't see them in the city. Yes, that was PR for him. And the other thing about protocol being broken, I think Raila is Raila. Babaman was being himself. I mean,
but you see, Moses, we only know God is the only person who's not a respecter of persons. You know, they normally say God is not a respecter of persons. And Raila, you know, actually the fleet of buses, I'm telling you, I've never seen them. I've been in Nairobi for a while. I've never seen those buses. I don't know where they came from, but you know, it is what it is. Hopefully
Yes,
next time. Yes?
so what I was saying is that Raila was being himself. That is his character. That is Bamba Man. He's a guy who always want to get attention. I mean, like, and now that he knew the head of states and everything, you know, he needed to be recognized. And you see, that's the thing that the likes of the Akina DP, who people they don't believe that he should be there, and he wanted to show them that you guys, you know, me Nico Bana ni mimi Baba Man, you know, he wanted to send a certain message, and absolutely he did. Yes.
Okay, I hear you. I don't know if he did, but it got some people talking. Anyway, moving on swiftly. Madubi, you know, as the event was, do you think it has borne any fruits? Just as at now, not even, let us not talk about the future. Just the event as it was, as at now, as where we are. Was it a success? Did the event really meet your expectation? And first of all, you can also tell us what were your expectations and the way you viewed the event, and did it really meet your expectation?
Thank you so much, Washira, for this. What I can say from Mosese point of view is that the PR was good again, and good thing he said Baba is Baba. But I remember some days back, Raila was saying this issue of Ruto and climate change is something that is not there. But again, you came to find him being within the discussions of climate change. So
Yes.
let Baba be Baba and us
Yes.
continue these discussions. Again, I can say the conversations were good. It was strategic because Ruto, our president, has been spearheading this because he has climate change. You can say he has climate change at heart. So he's really pushing for these conversations to continue and also do actions on the same, because it's something that he discussed a lot within his campaign period. My expectation, of course, were to see the representation. Of course, from the side of the youth, we saw several youth being presented, and also the declarations and everything. And also the conversations were involving the youth, because at the end of the day, the action now is us youth to do them. They'll have the discussions, but then we come to the programs and the projects, the mitigation and adaptation, we have to do them. So it's us. And also in the bigger picture is that it brought Africa together, because for a long time we have been having these discussions of Africa coming together.
I think we have lost Madubi there. I don't know if he can still hear us. I think we've lost him. I hope he'll be able to connect back. Or is it
the positioning of it as a country? It's a plus. It is really a plus to see that we can move an agenda and really act on it. Of course, many people can say the buses, the small car that Ruto drove is a PR. But again, if it's something that can be shown within this time, it's something that can be achieved in the long run. So the question is, are we moving on the right direction? Of course, with the conversations and the PR itself, of course, considering that lazima tujiuze kama nchi na zile product konazo, so we are in a good position. Also, with all the resources that come along with the conversation around African Climate Summit. Yeah.
And Madupi, when you're at it, you come from the coast or near the coast, and there's an MP known as Salasia. He was asked, talking of PR, he was asked about climate change, and he said, and then he later came and said, I don't know what. Is it true that that place is now hot? Maybe you can confirm to us and maybe tell us, come in Oceana Climate Summit.
Of course, people have different interests.
Mm-hmm.
And climate change was not one of them that the MP has at heart. Of course, politics around it. He said what he said, but of course, currently I'm in Nairobi. Traveled yesterday, but in coast it's hot. It's hot, and there are a lot that is happening that is caused by climate change. Considering that we are facing it in different ways, because one, we have severe droughts within the regions. We have severe floods. We have seawater intrusion.
Okay.
We have several calamities that are caused by climate change. So we can say we are affected. We are affected by it. Leaving alone that we say kule ni mahali pajua, but again, the rising of temperature, it's affecting us.
Okay.
Because nakumbuka hata Nairobi huwa kunakuwa na jua mpaka watu wanalalamika, but for us it's really hot, really hot.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Mabango will be telling us. I know Nashuku Mabango Salasi is MP, but he'll be telling us that later. Mosese, we have just mentioned a little bit earlier here that we saw the protocols there. We saw the presidents, the heads of states, the heads of government, the various representatives of various important stakeholders, countries, especially in Africa, and even the AU. Was represented, and even the UN, if I'm not wrong. So, but Mosese, there were some people who are not sure that we really expected them to be there for the Africa Climate Summit, especially Africans. So what do you read also from that situation? Are we together in this issue of climate summit if some people cannot come and just have this conversation? Because I don't think every member of the African state was represented. So Masese, are we really going in the same direction?
What I can say is that that means it's kind of as a symbol to show that we are not yet united as African. We have not yet aligned together and subscribed to the same ideas or ideologies, and that's why you find that it's also becoming easy for us to be divided yet, because it's in like an activity like this that I think the activity should be it's a common goal, or it's a common good for all of Africa. I mean, like climate, you cannot say it's not about other discussion, maybe of war, anything. It's climate. So I think it was a clear indication that we are not yet there as Africans. We might say that in the Pan-Africanism we might say that we are united, but it was a clear symbol here. If we couldn't converge all of us, we are not yet united, and we still have maybe a way to go for us to be united together. I would also say that maybe it's politics. Politics might also have played a hand in it, because you find that maybe the planning or some other people's maybe deferred in ideas, deferred in maybe the place of congregation on such things, because not everybody will be happy when you say Washira, when you say I will host a live show. Others will say, why don't you do a physical one? I think such things played that hard, but it clearly showed that for real we are not yet united, and we need to work towards that. Yes.
Thank you, Mosese, for that. I can see your friend Mashari Mongi saying Mosese the wise man, and Doro Mondi is saying he's looking forward to hearing and getting insights from this engagement. Thank you, Doro. And you also have Jeff Maina saying that climate action in Africa is not global north or global south. It's not a global north or global south issue. It is our collective challenge as Africans, and we must come together as Africans to find solutions. So thank you, Jeff, for that. Now, Timothy, there was something that was is now called the Nairobi Declaration. I don't know if you guys got to see the document or what that was being laid out. But now, from a public or a public policy practitioner, can you just maybe in a very brief manner break it down for us? What does this thing mean? Maybe I can use that word. What does the Nairobi Declaration mean for us as common mwananchi, as the country of Kenya, and more especially for the African continent as a whole?
I'll not delve into assessing the document in its entirety, but I'll look at it from the Kenyan perspective, specifically looking at parts that concern Kenya. I've broken down some points, so maybe I'll not go detail by detail. It's a 17-page document, but I'll delve into an overview of it. The first point I would like to speak about is the fact that Kenya, during the declaration, assigned itself to be the new site for the new Africa headquarter for Global Center for Adaptation. That implies that now Kenya will be the hub for climate change discussion, sort of. Okay, it can be done anywhere, but Kenya will be the epicenter for the new changes, the new mitigations, and the new agreements regarding Africa. There is also the Great Blue Wall Initiative, with which Kenya will be a major stakeholder. The Great Blue Wall Initiative deals with countries, especially countries that have a cost to it. It aims to mobilize at least 15 billion US dollars by 2030, which leads to 2 million square kilometers of ocean effectively conserved. That is also an estimate of 2 million hectares of critical blue ecosystems conserved. As a result, there will be a restoration and an enablement of 100 million, what is this? 100 million tons of carbon dioxide and 2 million blue jobs, that is jobs from the blue economy. As a result, 70 million people will benefit from the initiative. Kenya will be spearheading that initiative. At the same time, Kenya will be part of the Accelerated Partnership for Renewables in Africa, that is APRA, alongside countries such as Ethiopia, Rwanda, Sierra Leone, Zimbabwe. These are countries with a high renewable agenda. As I started my presentation before, I spoke about Kenya being at the forefront in renewable energy, that is geothermal, wind. We no longer depend on hydroelectric power, and that, as you know, Ashira, has helped Kenya, just as any other Africa that uses renewables, to have the aspect of sustainability. Usually, when you depend on hydroelectric power, whenever there are issues like droughts, or maybe the sea levels have gone down, or there is not adequate water, you find that electricity as well goes down in terms of supply and distribution. However, when you use renewables, things like wind, we call them renewables because they renew themselves. That is in the layman's language. They never get depleted. So countries with a high renewable agenda, Kenya being included, will be part of the APRA. APRA is a partnership to accelerate the production of renewables within the continent. And of course, and I'll mention a point with regards to international donors, we find countries like the UK, the US, Germany, Netherlands, and all that, they pledged some funds to finance such projects as those I've mentioned. We also have the multilateral organizations such as the European Union, the African Development Bank, and the Global Climate Fund, as well as the World Bank, which have also promised to donate significant amounts of finances for these projects. So Kenya will benefit. If at all we are being objective with this, we've spoken a lot about PR. So if at all there is no PR and we are objective on the Pan-African agenda, and indeed the European powers and all these UAE countries and international institutions support that agenda, Kenya stands a chance to benefit administratively, financially, and even economically. As I mentioned, the Great Blue Wall Initiative, which will generate a lot of jobs for the blue economy, as well as creation of jobs in these solar plants and the wind generators of electricity and all these kinds of projects. So in terms of Kenya, that is a summary.
Thank you, Tim, for that. You have broken it out in a quite a good manner there. Maybe somebody who had not been able to go through the document or really will not go through it either way has gotten a glimpse of what is in the Nairobi Declaration. And Madubi, I know you have read this, I know you have seen it, and you have heard also what Timothy has told us. Just maybe tell us, especially from the standpoint of our country, Kenya, the government of Kenya, the commitment that you have had the government of Kenya committing itself to, and also maybe Africa as a whole, the public sector, and other stakeholders who have put this Nairobi Declaration to be something that will be needed to be looked upon. Do you think it is viable, especially for us as Kenya? We already saw the government giving, I think, $17 billion. Was it 17 billion Kenya shillings or 7 billion Kenya shillings to the counties to that effect? So are we going to have really high expectations, or especially remember it's African led, and I'm not saying because it's African led it is going to backfire, but should we have high expectations for this, and is it viable?
What I can say, from my point of view, we have seen good direction resulting from the discussions. One of them being the 7.38 billion to the counties. And also I can say, as the initiator, because as much as we will talk, this is an African conversation, it has been initiated here. Like the discussions were all over Africa, but again, we are seen to be the spearheaders of this program, and we have taken a good ground to start these conversations around Africa. And as much as maybe the number of turnout of the head of states was lower, we can say it's a good start, because whenever you're starting something, you don't have to start with everyone. Some people will just get in along the way. As Moses has said, it's something that not everyone has interest on. Some people see we are not challenged by climate change. We don't have problems of climate change, but it affects them because climate change issues are gradual. So what I can say about the proposals, about what we have signed for as a country, I can say they are workable, because if we manage to start, then we are at a better position to continue. And for example, for the 7.3 billion, we can say that's the start. If the money will come to the counties, the county will do more. For example, if we put ourselves to be the center of climate change issues in Africa, it means people will be looking to us to achieve what we said we will achieve. And I can say many will be achieved. Of course, kama wewe ni mwanzilishi wa kitu, lazima uonyeshe kwamba you can do something. Like you have to set your bars high. That's what Kenya has done. Like we say that we can start this conversation, and we are continuing with them, and we are hoping by 2050 we will reach a certain point. Hata kama tutafikia jua, we will fall on the moon. You understand? Okay. So for me, I can say they are good stuff. They are good stuff, and the mitigation, the adaptation, the projects that are coming through the finances, we are in a good position. We are in a good position.
Madubi, as you're at it, I can see Natasha, he wants to test us, but he does not know we have a custodian today in the panel. And it so help be God today. I hope Madubi, you're going to help us here. So Natasha Manda is saying, I would like to challenge the guests to translate the word climate change to Swahili. That is one. And terms like carbon basin and sink are used exactly what they mean. So maybe not translate all of them, but just translate the word climate change for us if in Swahili. Where you are the closest thing to Swahili here. And then maybe you can tell us what carbon basin and sink are you. You know what do those terms mean?
Hi Natasha. Hi Natasha. Wacha nikwambie ukweli wa Kiswahili. Huwa kuna maneno ambayo yanatoka ughaibuni ambayo huwa hakuna wakati ambao unasema kwamba yako na ile direct translation. Unajua ukimwambia mtu climate change anatarajia kwamba umwambie ni pengine ni mabadiliko ya weather. Lakini katika mwingiliano wa maneno hatuwezi kwamba kila neno ambalo linatoka ughaibuni tunaweza kulipatia neno sahihi ama direct translation to Swahili. That's why climate change wengi watasema kwamba pengine waseme ni mabadiliko ya hali ya anga. Unaona, kwa sababu maybe iko na change then iko na climate. But hapa sasa ni mabadiliko tabia nchi ya climate change. Ukija mambo ya carbon ni maneno ambayo kwa Kiswahili mengine hutohozwa. Kutohozwa ni pale ambapo mnalitafutia neno ambalo yani neno kwa lugha ya Kiswahili ambalo linaendana. So hatuwezi sema kwamba leo tuko na translation ya carbon basin. Because ukisema basin wengine wataanza kufikiria ile beseni la kawaida la kuoga. So Natasha, some of the words huwa zinachukua muda kwamba wale watafiti wa Kiswahili wale ambao wamehitimu kwa Kiswahili wanachukua muda kuja na maneno ambayo yameibuka ughaibuni ambayo yanatakikana kuwa na maneno ya Kiswahili kwa translation. Kwa mfano kumekuja mambo ya zinaitwaje hizi carbon ni kama carbon inject. Unasikia? So kuna maneno ambayo bado yanafanywa utafiti. Ndio maana unaona mahali pengine huwa maneno hayo yanaachwa so that yanaelezwa tu kwa upana lakini hayapati direct translation ya Kiswahili. Kwa hivyo hayo maneno next time tunakuja nayo hapa. Tunakuletea na sasa.
Asante Madubi for that. I think who ndio wacha tuniongee kwa Kiingereza. This is the first time when we have had somebody speaking at least fluently in this show and trying to explain to us those words. But Moses, you were saying something?
I was saying just maybe for the sake of how maybe apart from the Swahili part of the climate change, when you talk of a carbon sink, we talk of something that can absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Maybe mostly we have the plants and the ocean. That's why maybe our good friend Timothy was talking about the blue economy, because it's one of the parts that creates the carbon sink. And when talk about the carbon basin, it's more like an instrument kifaa ambacho kinaweza absorb ile carbon dioxide kwenye atmosphere and it holds it for quite some time and then before it release it.
Yeah.
Anataka hiyo carbon Kiswahili, hiyo carbon basin kwa Kiswahili translate.
I think that one we'll give it as an assignment. Juma Dubi have said that we're going to come back with it. Tutajaribu sana tuweze kuja nayo wakati mwingine. Now, I can see more comments coming in. My friend Masharia Mwangi saying tuned in from Great Lower Muthaiga. Watu wa Mathare North, just call it Mathare North. It is not Lower Muthaiga, we know. And then I can see somebody by the name Jean-Paul Kyokia from Congo saying that thank you for taking the time from your busy schedules to share the information and knowledge. Thank you very much, Jean-Paul. And Jean-Paul is asking that, can anyone tell me if climate issues are part of the Kenya Vision 2030, or is it or it's a project to be added to the country agenda? So Timothy, I hope you'll be telling us that. And then you can see Masharia Mwangi saying, are we convinced to understand the whole idea behind climate? Okay, I'm getting that, but then you can see John Poko here saying the translation of climate issues to Swahili, that's such a good one. And then he's saying that Madubi Katudubia. Okay, no, people coming up with their own Swahili names now. And then you have John Poko here saying, Brother Madubi, impressive how you've provided such a detail. Answer in Swahili, hands down, impressive. Oh, hey, people are loving that. So maybe let me go back to Timothy to react to this question from Jean Paul. He's asking, can anyone tell me if climate issues are part of the Kenyan Vision 2030 or it's a project to be added to the country agenda? Timothy?
Well, about climate change and Vision 2030, you've caught me off guard. But from what I know about the Constitution of Kenya, in the Vision 2030, climate change is not directly addressed, but it's part of water and sanitation, which again falls in the Sustainable Development Goals. So it's part of the, in the SDGs and MDGs, Millennium Development Goals, we have long-term plans and mid-term plans. So climate change falls under mid-term plan 3, or is it 2, for 2018 to 2022. So it already started being addressed. That's why when President Ruto came into power, it's something that he decided it's going to be a major agenda for Kenya as well. After all, we are stakeholders, we are affected, and we can impact it as well. So that's the best I can answer for now.
Thank you for that information, Timothy. Now, more comments are still coming in. The same Jean Paul Kyokia saying, please, no more translations. And then Natasha Manda saying that Madubi, I'll remember the promise to come back in the correct terms. Otherwise, 9 out of 10 kwa hiyo uliolonga. Leo tuna wahenga. Okay. Now, let us move on further with the conversation, and let me ask Mosese this question. Mosese, now we have talked about the governments that we saw in, the protocols that are observed, the people who are represented, the various stakeholders that we saw in the summit. And we also saw some people protesting, actually, and they were saying that you have included non-African to an African affair. And even the president reacted and said that, this issue is not about us only, but it's an entire, it's a global issue that needs to be discussed. But, there were some issues that some people wanted to allude it to Pan-Africanism. Why are you inviting people who are one of the biggest problems that we have, problem contributors to climate, and then you answer to have a conversation with them and pretend, there was that kind of fire that was burning for the 3 days. So I don't know if you were able to follow that, and maybe you can just tell us what you think of that, and do you think we really need each other? Can Africa do this thing alone? Moses?
Oh, yes. One thing I can say is that first, we need to accept as Africans that we are not yet in a position whereby we are united to fund ideas and such strategies alone. That's one, because when we say that, I remember sometimes back, President Ruto was telling Africans that they need to come up maybe do a fund, like they come up more of like a fund whereby all these countries are contributing. And you see now, when we are not yet united, it becomes difficult for such agendas to be pushed by Africans alone, because most of them will not be united and they not contribute to this. And as you can see, as Timothy had done a summary, that it was something that really required quite a substantial amount of money. Secondly, when you are solving a conflict, you have to bring both sides together. As you have said, that these countries are one of the leading pollutants, or rather the contributors of this the contributors of our climate issues. So it was amazing for them to be in the conversation, and also the Africans to be in the conversation, so that now both parties can formulate a way, so that now the Africans can get a chance and tell them, for sure, you guys are doing this, and it is bringing a lot of carbon in the air, it's bringing a lot of issues in our climate. So you need to exchange this with that. so that now these people can also formulate a way of maybe ensuring that they reduce their emissions. So that now also as Africans come up with a way of reducing their emissions, these people can also come up with a way of reducing their emissions. And as Ruto was saying, it's a whole continental issue, it's a whole world issue. So we need to bring these both sides together, and we need to make them aware that we know you guys are doing this, and you need to stop. So for me, I think in as much as there was that things of Africans need to stand by itself, yeah, it's good. But I think now that it's a global issue, we need to have both sides of both sides parties so that they can formulate a way and ensure that both parties are working towards a net zero emissions. Yeah.
Thank you, Mosese, for that. Indeed, this is not only an African affair, but a global affair. And it doesn't matter who did what and who did I don't know what. It's high time we come together as a globe, and we just try and solve our issues together, and also, so that our generations that will come. I learned somewhere, or I read somewhere that if you look at the issue of climate and the world, especially the way things are changing, don't look at it as something that you got from your ancestors or the people came before you, but something that was borrowed from your future generations. And if you have such kind of a thinking, I don't think you'll now start blaming who and who. Besides, it's just a summit. Some of our African people did not show up. So I think the inclusivity of whoever, each and every stakeholder was very important. Now, Timothy, the Youth Declaration was also there. We saw the youth also having a similar meeting that was also included in the entire Nairobi Declaration. So, do you think the youth were well accommodated, or tutasema kama vile Mosese amesema ni PR? Was it necessary for young people to be on the table or in the discussions, the issues of climate change? And does it really matter when the youth speak?
Indeed, the voice of the youth is paramount and surmount to the positive direction of any country. Any country that does not involve the youth lacks the vigor and the wisdom, as well as energy that comes with the youth. So the inclusion of the youth was positive, but on the entirety of the matter, I would find it to be more of PR. For instance, Washira, if I ask you, how many youth activists for climate do you know? I'm sure you won't mention more than 10. Yet during the summit, we had thousands and thousands from different countries. So it's more of PR. Things they said there, and I've been looking at the Africa Youth Climate Assembly Declaration and the ambition statement, the objectives that they raised and everything. And we find that in most cases, even the voice of the youth is not amplified, even within the African Union. So on the positive end of it, and if at all it was objective, it is a good thing to include the youth and to understand things from the youth perspective. But overall, I don't think it will have any serious impact, because in most cases, most of the youth who do a lot of these things, especially for activism, they use it as a form of milestones, as a stepping stone to whatever they want to achieve. For instance, I have a friend of mine, I may not mention the name, who started a community-based organization as a way of raising funds. Whether he uses them well or not, I do not know. But at the same time, as a means of reaching out to these big financiers and these big politicians and to change his life. And I think that's what is happening with most of our youth. Because if at all they were serious, we've been speaking about tree planting. President Ruto has spoken about, I'm not sure of the exact figure, but planting of millions of trees. I haven't really seen youth except maybe in the media, but kwa ground, I would say kwa ground vitu ni tofauti. Yes.
Okay, I hear you. Thank you, Tim, for that. Macharia Mwangi is saying that, are we convinced that the MPs understand the whole idea behind climate action, especially after our good friend from Mumias decided to speak his side of the story? That one, I hope Tim will be answering that later. But also, another question coming in with as much integrity as possible, and it's in all honesty. Can someone tell me how can the youth in Africa make honest money from climate issues. So maybe Madubi, you can answer this question.
Yeah. If we look at the declaration, we found that every country has committed itself to do something, things around climate change. And speaking of our country, of course, it speaks also for other countries within Africa, is that the government is putting money on adaptation, on mitigation, and other programs to restore ourselves in things of climate change. So we look at the opportunity, and Masharia touched about it. The tree increasing tree cover through the programs of tree planting and everything. It is an opportunity. It is an opportunity for the youth to start these small projects, maybe coming up with nurseries, whereby now through the government, maybe they will start buying trees from them. Then from that, they will earn money to maybe do other things if they want. Also on the issue of awareness, Masharia talked about it, the activism of it. We have to find youth who are really passionate about climate change, who are passionate about the current situation and the future. And of course, through government programs, we have funds that will be channeled that side, where youth can start creating that awareness. Because you ask if the MPs are aware. Not everyone in Kenya or in Africa is aware about climate change issues. So we have to create that awareness that even the Mamamboga ama the local mwananchi understand what it is, because not everyone understands. Someone else can tell you we are not affected by climate change because the conversation has not reached to the local person. So we have to find a way we position ourselves as youth to see where is the government putting its resources on issues around climate change. Then we found an opportunity. So one, maybe coming up with a proposal of maybe mitigation, maybe also coming up with nurseries that government will buy trees from us, maybe through youth groups, through women groups, so that the government will find trees from us, which will make us in a better position also to say that we are actors in climate change issues. So that's what I can say in terms of the opportunities.
Actually, Madubi, you've even answered my next question, which I wanted to ask you, which was, what else can we do, as Africans and young people, apart from just looking at, the summit and talking about these events where we just come and talk about climate change, and we are doing nothing on the ground. Maybe let me just ask you if there is anything you have not mentioned there that we can do as Africans, as young people, to build the resilience that we ought to have in issues of climate change.
Mostly on the discussion about climate change, it revolves around climate finance. So do we understand the whole concept of climate change and climate finance? And where do us, let me say youth, benefit from? Because the discussions now are out that now we have the demonstrations that people are saying act now. But if we demonstrate, we don't act now. So maybe the people who are in the boardroom discussing, for us, maybe we are planting trees, maybe we are conserving the environment in different ways. And also to touch on the whole conversation about the African Climate Summit is that we look about our position in Africa. How is our position as Africans in terms of influencing the international sphere, let's say. For example, today we organized, we held the African Climate Summit. We brought people from different countries. We had the Nairobi Declaration. We are going for COP28 around November. But again, we have so much other discussions that will come, maybe around our economic influence internationally. We have other discussions about fight against terrorism. So we have a lot of issues that will start popping out, and we'll be discussing about them, and we'll start having a ground as Africans. So let's say let's not take it as a negative, like I say, negative. We don't have to have negative reasoning about it, but let's take it on the positive side, that it will help us to influence other things internationally. Yeah. So as youth, let's go to the ground, where within your homestead, within your locality, plant a tree, create that awareness to other people to plant tree, take care of the environment, and we'll live in a good world with less issues about climate change.
Okay, thank you, Madubi, for that. I can see Kiplimo Jeff saying that inviting the West to the Africa Climate Summit was to bring them to an accountability level financially. This in line with the theme, driving green growth and climate finance solutions for Africa and the world. So yeah, that's his comment. But also just to say something on what Madubi has just said here. You know, I had somebody tell us somewhere that he does not want his children to live in a good world. He himself, not only his children, but himself, he wants to live in a good world. So I also want to share the same sentiments. We as the young people can do something so that we can make sure in our lifetimes we live in a good world, especially with the issues of climate. Now, I can see time is not on our side. We are almost done, but I just want to hear the final comments from our panelists tonight, and I would like to start with Mosese, and you tell us as you're giving us your final remark, utuambie your kofia, where can we get it, and maybe if you can get a climate kofia, kama your climate change kofia, ama you will have talked with the president, atengeneze African Climate Summit, ama ni sisi hatuna plug. So Mosese, your final comments.
Yeah, so guys, it's been an amazing session. On my final remarks, what I can say is that the issue of climate are diverse. It's my good friend Madubi has talked about trees. We're still grappling with issues to do with plastic. Maybe later I will share. Maybe in the next session we are coming. Me and we have a group of guys who we are drafting a petition to the Parliament of Kenya because we have issues of plastic in our country, and we are coming up with a way whereby the companies that are producing plastic can be held accountable to ensure that even after releasing these plastic products to the consumers, they can be held accountable in such a way that they can be able now to get back their used products back, and they recycle them. To be aware that it is their mandate, their accountability, and that way I hope we tend to reduce plastic issues in the country. Yeah, so that's one of the things. What I can say is that I can ask the youth to be steadfast, and they need to know that they are the forefronts in these issues. And if we don't work towards these issues, we are the people who are going to be affected the most, because we are the young and we are going to get old. And as you said, we need to live in a good world in our old ages. So that's what I can say. And I can also urge the youth to be a little bit vibrant and outgoing, because that they can create their space. Because you see, no one will call you and tell you come and be part of this team. It's upon yourself to create space for yourself in those things. Let's be vibrant, let's be outgoing, and let them create space, and let them, so that's the only way we can be represented. We cannot just wait and tell you, hey, kujeni. We need to find space. We need to find our chairs in that big table and bring them and have that conversation. Yeah, that's all I can say. And thank you guys, and may God bless you and have a lovely night. Thank you.
Thank you, Mosese, for that. I hope once you are ready with the petition, you will bring it here. We dissect it with the help of Timothy and the like. So hii bunge letu la wananchi tuiapprove kabla wale wengine wa approve. Yeah, so we are looking forward to that and wish you all the best in that endeavor. Now, also, Timothy, maybe you can just tell us your final comments, and you have not denied or accepted whether Peter Salasya is your MP. You know, I saw Macharia Mwangi saying that MPs, and as he's not convinced that the MPs they have the whole idea of, they understand the whole idea of climate action. So maybe as you give us your final comments, I can just allow me to read this because I think Mosese has answered it in his own manner also, that Macharia Mwangi is asking, what are we doing, even the panelists, to create awareness on climate change and its effects in our respective spaces? And we also have Paul Kyokia saying, this is my opinion on the lack of awareness in Kenya / Africa. People are focused on surviving the day-to-day, month-to-month survival and simply refuse to prioritize future issues that are fast approaching despite their denial. Let me know if my reasoning is flawed. And then he says that it's already over. Wow. Why don't the panelists share their social media handles, such as Twitter, and allow the interested parties to follow them and see and hear more? So we are going to do that. So as you can observe that, Timothy, all of those things that have been said there as you give your final remarks, and then we'll come back to Mosese to share with us his social media platforms. Timothy?
We say charity begins at home. So on the matter of Peter Kalerwa Salasya, I would say I am a global citizen. I won't own or deny. On the issue of Africa, for Africa, I think our main problem in terms of climate, it's not all about finance. It is like a parent is about to die and he leaves inheritance to you without having taught you how to use that particular inheritance. We had contributions from countries like France through the Hydrogen de France, Leapfrog Investments, UAE promised us 10 billion USD in terms of financing through Master. So all we need is expert capacity building, beginning with our leaders. I was hearing, and I followed the summit from 4th to 6th. I would hear our president speak, and I would weep for Africa. Comparing them with Salasya wouldn't be a problem to me because most of them are fumbling, and for those who are not fumbling, they are simply reading speeches. So I would like to ask, were those even 20 or so heads of states, envoys, and special ambassadors aware of even whatever they were saying, or even supporting it from the objective mental space? Another thing, Africa is used to a lot of marketing and PR. If it was a corporate entity, I would say the marketing and PR departments for Africa are doing so awesome. But when it comes to the operations,
I think you have also lost Timothy there. I don't know whether his network is still up and running, but as he's coming back, maybe Mosese, you can give us your social media handles.
Yes, before I go to my social media handles, I would like maybe to pass a congratulation, not really a congratulation, but say that one, there was this guy who was following you live, Kajim, Mwangi Macharia. Mwangi Macharia has been a very good advocate of climate change. He has planted quite a lot of trees back in his home in Muranga. He is one guy who is really passionate about climate change. So I greet him and tell him to continue with that good work he is doing. History will reward him, right? Yes. So my social media handle. So my social media, Facebook, you will find me at Moses Maina. Instagram, you will find me at Moses _Maina. And Twitter, you will find me at Moses. Thank you.
Okay. As we also wait for Timothy, I don't know if he'll be able to come back. Let us hear Madubi's final comments on the whole issue, and also maybe atatuambia kama tutaenda kubadili tano na yeye and maybe when he is going to come back to share with us, you have promised Natasha something, and here when you promise something, you must deliver. So, Madubi, what are your final comments as we wrap up?
Kwanza kabisa ningesema niko na watafiti wa lugha ya Kiswahili, kwa hivyo Natasha asijali, tutaweka mambo sawa. What I want to say as my final comments, one, I'd love to appreciate this chance to share on this platform, and I loved it. But again, many people say Africa don't contribute much on the effects of climate change, but we are told and we know that climate change is gradual. So it means one time in the future, Africa will find itself in a deep mess on issues of climate change. So is it an opportunity for us to start now to do things that will correct it, or wait and blame contributors from the West about what we are going through? So it's high time we start to say ni sisi tusaidie dunia ya baadaye. We don't have to wait for it to be so harsh for us to saying now we are part of it. The second one, what I wanted to say is that the discussions will continue. Will continue, and we'll have discussions anywhere, but the actions are done on the ground. So we have to move as individuals, as organizations, as governments, to start doing things that will correct climate change. And I appreciate because I know even this discussion is doing a lot. Because it's creating that awareness to the local people and to bring people to discuss these issues, especially young people, to see how do we benefit from now going forward. So I really appreciate. One, Twitter handles, my social media handles, Madubi KE on Facebook, Madubi KE, Twitter, Madubi_KE Instagram, Madhi Robert LinkedIn. Also for Badili Tana, it's Badili Tana Facebook, Badili Tana Twitter, Badili Tana Instagram, and Badili Tana LinkedIn.
Thank you, Madubi, for that. And I hope one day we'll invite you, I hope you'll honor, so that you can just come and tell us about Badili Tana initiative, and we dissect it also as African Corner, and we want to hear more about that. So we're looking forward to that. Okay. I hope you will come, Madubi.
Okay, thank you. I'm here.
So I can see Timothy is back. Timothy, you are wrapping up something, so please proceed.
I'll proceed from wherever I had left. As I was saying, what kills a skunk is the publicity it gives itself. So for Africa, we've already publicized our ignorance in these matters. And I do not mean that we do not have the capacity, but rather that we love doing it the African way. And I'm not speaking from a positive point of view. As I had earlier noted, in terms, if Africa were a corporate organization, our marketing and public relations department would be doing a good job, but the operations management departments would be failing us. We are more of talking, expecting help from people who may not help us, but it may never come. Going forward, we hope that future climate engagements will look at the principle of common but differentiated responsibilities, which brings in more equity. It's more of affirmative action, so that in line with the Kyoto Protocol, or as my brothers from Machakos would say, Kyoto Protocol, we will be able to reduce carbon emissions to those particular levels we've been tasked to, or to those commitments we've given to ourselves. Let's reduce our dependence on oil instead of fighting for it. We have renewables, we have these capacities. I earlier mentioned about the APRA, Kenya, Namibia, Malawi are partnering so that they can finance their own projects and so that they can pioneer the renewable spirit in Africa. As I wrap up, we know the problem, let's pursue to tackle it. We know the direction, let's follow it. And as I finish, we know all we have to do about climate change. We've read it in papers, we've read it from the summaries, we've seen it in the Nairobi Declaration. We have youth activists who can do all this awareness. We all know the problem of climate change. And as Peter Salasio said, this thing is real. So from the Latin phrase, ubi jus, ibi remedium, where there is a right, there must be a remedy. Let's solve our problems as Africa. We have the solution. Let's do all we have. I am Timothy Mabango. The only social media I am in is LinkedIn, Mabango Timothy. Thank you.
Thank you, Timothy, for always speaking. I was wondering, Tasha, if you have not given us Greek or Latin, and you have not disappointed me. So thank you for that once again, also for tuning into the show. I really appreciate it. I want to thank everybody who has joined us live and sent in their comments. I can see the overall show saying that the overall show I have been following, and I am glad we should localize the issue of climate change. Thank you very much, Okoto Pondo, for that, and the overall show fraternity as a whole. So I want to thank you guys very much for watching us, listening in, and in a very special manner, thank my panel tonight. It has been really a wonderful. I've enjoyed the conversation from Madhi Robert Kiswahili to Mosese Watu wa PR to Timothy Mabango, speaking information and knowledge. So we really appreciate it very much. And also, before we wrap up, or we call it a day, I'd like to remind guys that we also have our fun day that is coming up. So we have been sharing this across our social media platforms. So it will be in Nairobi Arboretum. It will be on the 30th of September from 2 p.m. So we are sharing that, and each and every detail that is required is there on the poster. You'll be seeing it across our socials. So if you are interested, you can turn up for that day and let us have fun for that day. So, and also, I've heard in the spirit of sharing our social media handles. For my case, I want to remind everybody that now Ashira Speaks is across almost each and every social media platform: Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. Oh, this is called X, and Instagram, and anything that you can think of. I think Threads is where we are going now soon. Just search Washira Speaks, and it will be there. So, without much further ado, I'd like to thank you very much. Wish you a wonderful week. See you on Wednesday, where we're going to have an African Corner conversation, and maybe next Sunday, where we're going to have another State of the Continent discussion. So stay tuned. You never know what might be coming. Maybe Mabango will be sharing with us some Latin and Greek, or Madudi will be coming back with the Swahili. So I hope next time when we talk about Badili Tana, you're going to come back with a promise. Now, that's it from my end. My name is Mutadio Ashira Wanyaga. Dayo. Have a good week. Have a good night.